Good afternoon. It's great to be here with you today. I admire that young lady that was just up here, and I've met her before. What she is doing is awesome. And one thing I want you to get out of that is in servant leadership, you don't have to have a huge group to inspire or lead. You just need one person and making a difference in their lives. And she's just working with small groups, and small groups is the best way to make a difference. It really is. You can invest more time in them. So just a little bit, you mentioned it, so I'll go off of this. Access Family Care was founded by three ladies. We call them our founding mothers. They were nurses. Nurses can do anything. Yeah. So I always say, if there's an emergency, I just need two people. I need a nurse, and I need a teacher to help keep us organized. They're the best. So this organization started with a flat tire in Pineville. A gentleman that worked for HRSA was driving through Pineville, had a flat tire, broke down. Can you imagine being broke down in Pineville? And this is back in '96. He got out of his car and looked around and he said, "This town needs a community health center." He called up Marianne Bradley, who was the administrator of the McDonald County Health Department. He said, "Marianne, you need a community health center here." And she said, "Well, if you say so." So she gathered two other nurses, one from Berry County and one from Newton County, all three of administrators of the health departments, and that's how we started. Pat Tishner, the one from Berry County, has since passed away, but our other two still serve on the board. Marianne Bradley, she reminds me, she's going to be, in November, she's going to be 91. She still attends our board meetings, although she comes in via the great technology of Zoom. But she's sharp as a tack. I tell you, she knows her nursing, and she knows everybody in McDonald County. She served down there for over 40 years. Some of you may know her still if you're from Mack County. So I'm proud of that legacy and the work that they've done. I've got a very different slant on this today for you. And if I get through, if I have some time at the end, I'd like to talk a little bit about crisis, because sometimes in leadership you have to manage crisis. And in your families, we sometimes have to manage crisis. So when someone asks me what is servant leadership, for me it's not necessarily a skill, although we can learn a lot of skills. Listening is one I'm still working on. Lots of skills that are for leadership that are good to learn, but it's not necessarily a skill or formula for responding, but rather it's yielding to an attitude or committed position. It's a place that I'm going to be no matter what the storm is around me. It's a commitment to a mindset that reigns my behavior. That's what it does. So servant leadership is a regenerative influence. And I've had the honor, I would say, and the privilege of being part of a generational influence. And I've seen that come up. When I stop and think about the things that I've done in my life, and I'm still relatively young, I want to think. I may have some more great things ahead. I don't know. But I will have to say that my work as an educator in migrant education is probably the one that touches my heart the most. And I got to work in a program as an educator in Missouri with migrants, most of them Latino, most of them Hispanic, whatever term that you want to use for that. And these were the kids that had a 40% dropout rate. These were the kids that, you just saw one that was up here today, a good example of that. These were bright kids. Their parents moved them here. They weren't under control of that, but they came here for a better life. Their parents wanted to give them a better life. Everything that Jennifer said about her relationship with her parents and the expectations and the heaviness that she carries is all so true. My parents brought me here for a better life. I have to perform, and they carry that, and they wear that heavily upon their hearts. And that sometimes it's a struggle. So I look at that in working with Missouri Migrant Education. We started a program we called it the Migrant Leadership Academy. It was the weekend of Memorial Day weekend, and we partnered with Camp Barnabas and Paul and Cindy Tees, who are no longer there, but they were great to work with. So they gave us that weekend. And so we brought in speakers. We worked with the migrant program in Arkansas. And I don't know how many years, I don't remember how many years we did this. It was several years. But they would bus them in on we'd see those yellow school buses come from all over Arkansas, from Mena, from DeQueen, from Springdale, from Rogers, bringing them in, and all over Monette and all over Missouri as well. They'd bring them in. We had them there at this camp, and we had speakers, and we did everything we could to encourage them to stay in school. We pushed them to thinking about college. I remember one year Dr. Julio Leon came and spoke to them, and he inspired them because he was one of them, and they could relate to him, and he talked to them in Spanish, and he encouraged them to go to college. So I was really proud of that work. And then I got to come to Crowder College, and all of a sudden the College Assistance Migrant Program fell into our lap here. And now I wasn't pushing kids into college, I was pulling them in. And then you heard me talk about Jorge Zapata. I wanted to tell you, I don't know if he was in here earlier, I don't know if he's in here now or not, but that was a key. He was one of them. And we got them in here. But back to the Leadership Academy, there's a young kid he came in, it was only supposed to be for high school kids, but somehow he got in there. He was a middle school kid. And I didn't know about this till just last year or 2 years ago. He told me. He said, Don, I don't know how I got in there, but I was there. And so that kid, his name is Ishmael. And then when we got over here and we started to help, we got the camp program going, guess what? Ishmael came. He became one of our camp students here at Crowder College. He worked and got his bachelor's degree, and then he became an assistant for the HEP program here at Crowder College. And then the opportunity for me to leave in 2006 to join up with Access Family Care happened. It was not an easy decision to leave to leave Crowder College. So I left and went over there, and just a few years later, somebody applied for a position over there named Ishmael. And he called me up and he said, Don, you've got a position over there I want to apply for. And Dr. Farnsworth said that servant leadership is not easy. People sometimes think it is. Well, I follow with that same philosophy. It is not. It's really one of the toughest ones because you're committing to serving the mission of the organization, not people's agendas. I told Ishmael, you're on your own, buddy. You're going to have to get a job here on your own merits because I'm not going to influence that. And I didn't. He got in. He's one of our employees, and he's been a successful and an awesome employee. He spent time serving as one of our clinic managers. He's done our grants. So that's that kind of generational leadership, and some people call it mentorship. I like to call it being a father or a mother. I think it's more powerful when we look at ourselves as being fathers and mothers and consider that as we lead others. The most important leadership you will ever do will be to your own children and your grandchildren. That's the most important. Don't ever let that go aside, because those 1 or 2 or 3, however many children you have, and then the grandchildren, some folks have a whole lot. I only have one, but I'm happy with having one. That's the most important work you will ever do, is influencing those lives. to be great and productive. Very important stuff. So another story I want to tell you about, and this is the generational business. I kind of feel like I'm another father to Ishmael, and I'm proud of that. He's a good kid. He's married. He's got his own kids he's raising now. I've seen him grow up. But in our college assistance minor program, we had a young lady come. Her name was Madi Soul. She spoke about 3 words of English. She wanted to go to college. So we provided assistance for her to go through the ELI program and learn English, and we got tutors for her and all of that. And then she comes to me and she said, Don, I want to be a nurse. And she said it in Spanish. And I thought, oh, so this is what's going in the back of my mind. You don't know English and you want to go into one of the toughest programs here at Crowder? She did it. She learned English, and she went through and became a nurse. She got a job at the McDonald County Health Department. And then she said one day, she said, Don, I want to come and work for Access Family Care. And now she's with us. She's one of our care managers down in our Anderson clinic. I'm proud of that. That makes me feel good. And it's not a pride that, it's a feeling of being part of something that you've been able to make a difference in somebody's lives. And Crowder's done that. It's taken a lot of people involved in making that happen. So, 2 things I think it's important for everybody to do to remain as servant leaders. And this may sound a little morbid, but we really need to learn about, make a decision about the end from the beginning and how we want our lives to end up at the end and how we're going to know that they were good lives. And we need to make those decisions from the beginning. So I always like to go to the funeral, a funeral of somebody who led a good life. Because I like to hear the stories that come out of that. And I like to see people that stand up and talk about how they were influenced in positive ways by that person. And the other thing that I would tell you that's important to do is every year watch It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. Because that will help you realize what life would be without you and how you think your life is so simple and maybe not that meaningful or maybe not that impactful. But what would it be like if you weren't there? And I've had lots of those moments. And I was at church one time, and there was a little children's program that was a career decision for me. Because I saw up there on that stage all these little Hispanic kids. And I knew every one of their parents. And I knew how I interacted with them. And I thought, where would they be? Where would they be? So my work in our Hispanic church is important to me, but migrant education has really been probably the thing that I feel the best about. And when I think about it very much and the lives that are there, then you're going to see me like Dr. Webb break down and cry, because that's the stuff that really makes a difference. So let me go on and talk real quick here about servant leadership. For me, servant leadership, Access Family Care, we have about 230 co-workers that I serve with, and it's not about me leading them. The most important person for me to lead is myself. And it's not always easy. I have to, as the leader of this organization, I have to be very highly committed to the mission of the organization. I have to value the mission that I serve enough to be willing to change myself so that I won't become a hindrance or interfere in the mission of this organization. I must have hold the values of Access Family Care at such a level that I preserve them over my own comfort. I have to be committed to serve the mission and values to the extent that they become assigned to my heart as a covenant. And I say this with, I am married to Access Family Care. That's my commitment. I've given my life to it. I will stay there as long as I need to. And my wife understands that, and we have a good marriage. I'm not neglecting her. But I'm not one of these guys that's going to fly in and fly out. I'm committed all the way. That's how important it is. There are 25,000 patients that depend on us. And I think another way to demonstrate servant leadership is to tell the stories. I love our dental hygienists. A good dental hygienist is a person who talks a lot. Right? Because you can't. And they're keeping you calm while they're talking to you. So one of our dental hygienists, her name is Crystal. She told me a story that has impacted me deeply. And I've told this story so many times, and I always get choked up when I do it. So Crystal says, Don, when I see these, I know these kids because I was one of them. When I see them, I can spot them. I know them. You see, Crystal came from a broken family, an abused family, where drugs and physical abuse were just part of the normal everyday business. And she climbed out of that, became a dental hygienist. Hey. She said one day there was this, one of her patients, 11 years old, a girl. Dad had dropped her off. It must have been Dad's time to have her. Dropped her off there at the clinic for her dental care, for her appointment. She saw her, took one look at her, and she knew exactly what was going on. She probably was in the same clothes for about 4 days. Her face was dirty. Her hair was a mess. So Crystal took her back, and she just had this look on her face. Everything, just heaviness on her. So you already know for a preteen, life is hard. She's already got everything against her. And Crystal got her back, put her back in a chair. And then Crystal goes back to her own area, her own cubicle, and comes back with her own brush. She cleans up her face, and she's talking to her. And she's combing her hair with her brush, getting all the tangles out, spending time talking to her. She braids her hair. And she takes that mirror that dental hygienists have, and she holds it up before her face. And she said, Sally, look, you are a princess. You are beautiful. You can be anything that you want to be because you are a princess. That was probably the best thing anybody could have done for her. More important than probably cleaning her teeth. She called her out of an existence of despair and gave her hope. She called things which be not as though they were. She gave a word of prophecy so she could step out of that dark existence and she could see something. Somebody of authority over me said something they see something in me that I can achieve. I told Crystal, I said, don't be surprised if someday that little girl comes back growing up to see you and to let you know she's a dental hygienist. It can happen. That's servant leadership. That's investing in one person's life and making a difference. It's making a difference. A couple of years ago, I was proud of the fact, very happy, I should say. One of our dental assistants, she learned dental assistant on the job with us in our Anderson clinic. She decided that she wanted to become a dentist. She came to Crowder College, Hispanic lady. She came through the camp program. I didn't know it at the time. She graduated, became a dentist, and now she's in her second year as one of our dentists in our Joplin clinic. Hispanic lady. You just need to know Crowder is having huge impacts. And one day I asked how many people here at Access Family Care have been through Crowder or have had family through Crowder, and it's almost everybody. It's very important, the servant leadership that's taking place here. So we have a lot of employees at Access Family Care and there's several of them that have been through the camp program. A very important legacy. And the other thing that makes me feel good about the leadership model that we have called servant leadership is I'm very fortunate to have some highly skilled staff that serve very close to me in our executive team. 2 of them have been hospital CEOs, and one of them has told me repeatedly, he said, "This is the best team I have ever worked with." He said, "You know, I probably won't be here forever, but wherever I end up going, this is the model that I'm taking with me." Because he saw how it works. It makes a difference. Servant leadership makes a difference. It's a thing that works. It really does. So this is more than my reputation, because I serve stewarding the reputation of the organization, Access Family Care, beyond my own reputation. The reputation of Access exceeds my reputation because it serves many. It serves 25,000 people. That's more important than me. It's all of those people that we serve. One of the things that really holds me accountable is knowing that eyes are on me. And I am not an extrovert by any near standards at all. I don't like eyes on me. If I'm with a group and pictures are being taken, you're not going to find me in very many of them at all. But one of the things that holds me accountable is the fact that people are watching me. They're listening to me. They're hearing things I say. One of our long-term employees said one time, "Don, you said this one time, and I say it now." I don't remember what it was, because I couldn't get over the fact that, oh my gosh, I need to be careful about what I say, because people really do listen. And they take that, and it becomes part of their lives. And so I have to study. I have to manage myself. And that's why I say leadership begins with me. And it's emptying myself of myself so that I can serve the mission better. It's choosing not to be offended, because I want to tell you something. When you're in leadership, you're a lightning bolt for everybody. It's like you feel like everybody hates you. But you have to choose to walk in forgiveness. You have to choose not to be offended. You can't, and serve well. So my burden is not to align the organization's values to mine, but it's to commit to serving the values of the organization, or I need to separate from it if I can't do that. When I walk across the doors, when I go into Access Family Care, I take the mission and the values and I put it on over my shoulders above my own, because I'm there to serve the organization. If I can't line myself up with that, then I'm in the wrong place. And back to that whole thing about what Dr. Farnsworth said earlier about it not being easy, I see in orientation, I have time with every new employee. And I halfway jokingly told Dr. Methvin that I do my best to get them to quit. And if at the end of what I have to say they remain, then I know that they have the DNA that we're looking for at Access Family Care, that they have servants' hearts and they're willing to work. I tell them stuff that a lot of people don't like to hear. You will work hard in this organization. But one of our values is compassion. And for people who want to live a life of giving with compassion, you're going to work hard, but you're going to lay your head down at the end of the day, tired and worn out, but feeling good that you've made a difference. You've made a difference. And that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what will get you up in the morning, to come back and work hard again because you're making a difference. Back to the family thing. Just to give you another example, our dental director, she's a millennial. And I love millennials. There's been a lot of stuff. People get upset with millennials. I love them. And maybe because I work with some unique ones, but I really do. I love the way they think. I love the way they serve. Because when you get a millennial that's committed to servant leadership, you better step out of the way. So Dr. Kayla Smith, she's our dental director. And when she came and interviewed, she cried in her interview. And that's when I knew that she needed to be part of our team, because she talked about serving and helping people. She could go anywhere and have a multi-million-dollar practice, but she has chosen to serve the underserved. That's where her heart is. And I admire her and her husband. When she came to us, she was single. And so I didn't have a lot of hope that she was going to stay with us. Dr. Kayla Smith, I wanted her to stay. She met a man here from Neosho. His last name was Smith. And they struggled to have a child. They lost one. So they decided to adopt. They fostered a family of 3 different children, and those 3 children were from the same mother, but they all had different fathers. So you know the story that might be there. They fostered them, and then they decided to adopt, and they went through the adoption process. And before all that, and it takes a while, then she got pregnant. So in 1 year, she had 4 children. We were meeting with a local real estate agent one time, and we were talking about that. And some of you may know Mike West, so you know how he is. He said, he looked at her, and he said, well, any farmer would want to have a heifer like you that have 4 babies all in one. But I admire her and her husband because they're making a difference with those children. And those children have issues. They're working through it. And guess what? She told me just about a month ago, there's another sibling. And they're working on bringing that one into the fold as well. I said, Kayla, you guys need to get a bus. But they're going to make a difference in those people's lives, those children's lives. They're going to make a difference, and that's where servant leadership is. It is a mission. So how do I get others to align with the mission? I have no control over anyone but myself, but I have the power of influence. And influence is it's the thing that will make a difference. When Jennifer was in here, I had a conversation with her several years ago and found out that one of our camp students, Jorge, Maribel Abaran, was an influence in Jennifer's life. So there's that generational multi-influence thing. It goes all over the place. And sometimes you don't even know who you're influencing or who you're making a difference. And it's really good when you get to find out and get to see those things happen. I'm responsible to Access Family Care, the board of directors, our employees, our patients, HRSA. These are all the ones I serve. So in order for me to get there, it's best to begin with the end in mind. Where are we going, and how are we going to get there? You have to see the need, and this is what Jennifer said earlier. You have to see the need, and then you have to serve that need. That's how it is. And it doesn't have to be a big need. It just has to be a need. And every one of us in here, we can all find a need that needs to be met, and we can serve it and make a difference, even if it's one person. They need it. That's the leadership that we need in this country today. So, successful servant leadership begins with humility. Humility is a prerequisite, and I want to say that humility is the most powerful force on the face of the earth. It really is. We need humility in our hearts and our lives. It's a journey to get there. I want to read something to you that I wrote, and I have more confidence in what I write than speaking. And I'm not saying I write well, okay? But I want to talk about community, because servant leadership, I think, is the best answer for community. Most would agree that diversity with mindsets, culture, and perspectives in a group often challenge excellence in getting things done. But today I want to challenge all of us to use this diversity of thinking to strengthen our endeavors to serve well. Many of the patients we serve live in a reality where day-to-day survival consumes all their efforts. Many are just days away from a blank paycheck and experiencing a homeless lifestyle, and some are even homeless. The people we serve are more often than not the unvalued of society. They are the lesser ones. They are the people society chooses not to see. Some of us know that this is true because we've been there. And if it weren't for the grace of God, there go I as well. They will always be with us. There is no government program that will resolve this, no matter how helpful it might be in temporarily alleviating the challenges. Why will they always be with us? One reason is to challenge our hearts. Life's excellent design for humanity is to serve well together in community. A functional community is one that is diverse, challenging, but highly effective in achieving high-level goals where all involved are bettered beyond what one person could do singly. So I once heard of a story of an intervention of justice that took place many years ago with a tribal group in Malaysia. They didn't have highly effective community because of the high mortality rate that was happening there. If a child made it to the age of 5, they had a 50% chance to make it to 10. As a result of this, parents created emotional distance between themselves and their children. They didn't even bother to name their children until much later. Can you imagine what that did to the children? Can you imagine what that did to the society? Some people consider children lesser ones. Anyone who needs assistance is considered a lesser one by certain segments of society. The lesser ones will always be with us. If we are truly interested in permeating a fully functional, healthy community into our present culture, it will begin by recognizing the value of an individual even before they are changed or functional. Valuing people where they are and honoring them as fellow human beings is what will initiate change in them and us and the community that we serve. The value that we place in people who can't do anything for us shows us really how much we are impacted by our journey to better community. How we treat others reveals our hearts. How we treat others reveals our hearts. They will always be with us to reveal what is really in our hearts. Healthy community is about living with a conviction that the snotty-nosed child before me or the displaced, poorly mannered adult yelling at me from a heart filled with years of rejection connects me to where I'm being summoned into serving into a higher level of community. There isn't anything much more valuable than healthy community. A true healthy community is diverse every way, where all hearts are challenged to step up to emptying selfishness and embracing service to one another. This is highly functional servant leadership. The most vital tool we have in us is being stirred with compassion to honor a person before they earn it. Those who wait for others to earn honor will fail experiencing healthy community. We won't always be aware of the subtle differences affected by our honoring the unhonored. So we shouldn't wane from the effort, but trust that it certainly does make a difference. We don't have to witness the results to validate our efforts. The gap separating dysfunctional community and healthy community is thinned when we express from our heart with visible actions of kindness to our neighbor who hasn't treated us kindly. As we feed healthy community with these efforts, it will positively impact unhealthy community in the right ways. You narrow the gap by not allowing yourself to think little of the other person. I shouldn't allow myself to entertain degrading negative thoughts about how much someone lacks value. Instead, when I look at a very poor homeless person, I need to think that person, somebody looked at that person at one time and thought, what a cute baby. Someone had hopes and dreams for that person. When I extend value to someone who can't return it and who can't do anything for me, I will have the greatest impact on moving both of us towards healthy community. And this is what creates a thin place that makes it easier for all of us involved to move into the higher levels of community where we can create change in the world around us. It begins by changing my mindset, my perspective, and how I value others. Sacrificing the right to be offended in exchange for releasing kindness breaks all kinds of barriers and leads to healthy community and highly functional relationships. As servant leaders, this is how we change the world. It's one person at a time. And actually, it's us. We have to change and be ready to change all the time. Servant leadership is a journey. Okay, I think I have a few minutes. So I want to talk just a little bit about crisis. And we've had some crises in our work at Access Family Care. We've dealt with financial hardship when payers changed. When I first started, I had to learn how to fire people. We try not to call it that anymore. We try to say we invite them to go to our competition. But if I want to serve the mission well, there's sometimes people that don't fit in with that focus. There was one time that we actually had the Secret Service pay us a visit. That was scary. Some employee got mad at another employee, decided to say that she threatened the president. Then the Joplin tornado was impactful for us. We learned a lot in that when that happened. Well, everybody did. Everybody learned a lot with that, not just us. But we've been involved a lot with the county and rapid response and all those, lots of training and different things. And then the tornado happened. we were pretty well prepared. You're never really prepared for the precise disaster, but our job in that was to take care of the walking wounded. We opened up the Joplin Clinic, and we saw patients till in the wee late hours of the morning. We had some severely injured people we should not have had, but there's no place for them to go. But I'm so proud of our staff. They showed up. They were, nurses. You know how they are. They show up, and they're there. They're ready. They're kind of get excited about that kind of stuff. That took place. But we just expected patients to be flooding us the next day, and we went a couple days, and there was nothing. Our staff were like getting bored. They said, what is going on? So I called one of my cohorts, CEO from one of our sister health centers over in southeast Missouri. She's dealt with tornadoes and floods. So she brings her people over, and she said, Don, you need to go buy some T-shirts. I said, okay, Cheryl. So we ordered a bunch of T-shirts with our name on them, and she said, you need to send people out. Just tell them to go. Get them out. So we brought in a bunch of those red flyer wagons. Everybody's got one. I called them the Red Wagon Brigade. They loaded up those wagons with water, tetanus shots, bandages, all kinds of stuff, and they went out. What happened was there were people out there in the homes, and some of them were injured, but they didn't have cars anymore because they're blown away with a tornado, and they didn't want to leave their houses. They're afraid to leave their houses that they might be looted. There's lots of stories that came out of that, but one I will tell you that's very impressive to me. They came upon one older lady in her 90s. Her family could not find her. If you went in a disaster zone, you didn't know where you were. You had no idea. She couldn't get out or anything, and her half her roof was gone. It rained a lot. I don't know how she did it, but it was a couple of days later before they found her, and they bandaged her up. She had some head injuries, and were able to find her family and get them all united. Lots of stories like that happened during that. So the Joplin tornado was pretty impactful. But this week, I'm just going to be honest with you and very transparent. This week was a very hard week, and I've begun to have some of the same feelings that I had back when the Joplin tornado happened. From last week on into this week, we were dealing with some customer service issues, that we were failing to provide great customer service. We're trying to transition from a web portal where patients can arrange for appointments, and then we've got staff that are old-fashioned and they're having a hard time to transition to that. But millennials and the next generations that are coming up, they don't want to use the phone to call for an appointment. They want to text it in, or they want to use the web portal. So we're transitioning towards all of that. So I was very frustrated with the what I call lousy customer service that we were providing those people that were connecting through the internet. Anybody know what a near miss is in healthcare? A near miss is just about what it sounds like. That's when, for whatever reason, healthcare causes harm to a patient, a mistake. That happens because you have imperfect humans. I looked up on the internet and I found out that out of 100 patients in a hospital, 8 to 10% will experience a near miss. That sounds high to me. 8 to 10% would be a great rate if you're going to Florida on a vacation and that's what the weather is telling you, it's going to rain. 8 to 10% chance of rain, you're going to feel good about that, right? If you get on an airplane and the flight attendant tells you, welcome to Glory Hallelujah Airlines, you'll have a 8 to 10% chance of a near miss. How many of you would feel good about that? So let's take Freeman Hospital and let's take Paula Baker. What if she stood outside with this big sign as all patients were coming in, and she had this big sign that said, 8 to 10%, we're going to harm 8 to 10% of you. But it's true. But they're not going to stand out there and tell you that. So last Tuesday, I was coming back from lunch, and I get this phone call, and it's from my daughter. And my daughter was very composed, but I could hear the shakiness in her voice. And she said, your clinic gave your grandson the wrong dose at his yearly checkup. Then my wife called. She wasn't yelling at me, but she was close. And I have an upset son-in-law. I have all of this happening. It's the CEO's son. My organization that I lead potentially harmed my grandson. And I'm the leader. How am I going to respond to this? I have to lead my family through this. I have to lead our organization. So you know what I did? I called our medical director, Dr. Jumper. I said, Dr. Jumper, I have two questions. Number one, is Oliver going to be okay? And what they did is they gave him, instead of the 25% of the flu shot, they gave him an adult dosage. By mistake. He said, yes, Don, he's going to be fine. We used to give adult dosages back in the old days. He'll be okay. Number two, Dr. Jumper, did we do this to anybody else? I don't know. So I pull around. I'm in Crowder Industries. I'm in the pickup truck. And I just stopped, and I cried. I said, this place is falling apart. So I got composed because I had to go back in, and I had to have a meeting. And we had to talk about some things. I've got to tell you, that was one of the toughest things I had to deal with. So the end result is Oliver is fine. He never had any symptoms, and he doesn't have to have that second booster shot. Everything's okay. But that was a near miss. And I got to tell you, everybody felt horrible about it. They all knew he was my grandson. You can't keep that a secret. I always try to use my family as secret shoppers. Tell me how it went. And they do, but now, they're all exposed now. My daughter said, I want you to know I tried not to use the CEO card, the dad card, but I did this time. She did. Our pediatrician, I was really proud of him. He called them himself and explained the whole thing. And that was the right thing to do. I purposely stayed out of it. Everything in me wanted to run up to that drop-in clinic and knock some heads. It wasn't the right thing to do. We have a great process in place where we do events. And I trust the process. It's a good process. And they're doing that right now. So we won't let this happen again. I've heard some things that what may have caused it, and it makes sense, but we've got to find a way to prevent that from happening again. Healthcare is highly risky, and I will tell you this, and I'll finish with this thing. We had a nurse back when I started. She was our corporate compliance officer, and nurses are awesome. She also had a legal background. That's why she was our corporate compliance officer. She said, every patient has to be their own advocate. So I'm going to tell you that today. You go through the rights. Right patient, right day, right medicine. Go ahead. Don't feel embarrassed. Ask those questions. Make sure that's happening, because there are so many steps, so many processes involved in healthcare. So many. And you're relying on a lot of stuff. Those things happen. And it's how we respond to these things in leadership that makes the difference. We're here to serve. We're here to serve. And that's what it's all about, serving others. Chet?